Dexter Morgan. By day, a forensic blood spatter analyst for the Miami Metro Police Department, meticulous, analytical, seemingly ordinary. To his colleagues, he is competent, calm under pressure, even likable. But by night, Dexter becomes something else entirely. He is a vigilante killer, guided by an unrelenting compulsion he calls his dark passenger. This shadow that lurks within him is not a simple urge. It is a force, a presence, an intrinsic part of his identity that shapes every thought, every action, every breath. For Dexter, normalcy is not just unattainable, it is an illusion, a social contract he can never fully honor. He can imitate humanity, play the part of the loving brother, the devoted friend, the attentive partner, but these performances are carefully constructed masks. Beneath them lies the predator, the part of him that thrives on control, precision, and the raw, cold satisfaction of taking justice into his own hands. Dexter does not kill out of anger, greed, or revenge. He kills because he cannot not kill. It is an innate drive, one that defies societal morality and conventional ethics. Philosophers have long wrestled with the tension between human instinct and moral law. Kant argued that morality is rooted in universal duty. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power and the creation of one's own values. And Sigmund Freud dissected the ID, the primal desires that lurk beneath the conscious mind. Dexter is the embodiment of all these concepts simultaneously, a man whose inner drives clash violently with the expectations of society, whose shadow self dictates actions that reason alone cannot justify. He doesn't simply act. He rationalizes, calculates, and orchestrates with surgical precision. Every kill is not just an act of compulsion, but a careful performance of justice as he sees it. A personal, self-imposed moral code that allows him to coexist with the rest of humanity, at least superficially. Dexter operates in the grayest corners of morality, walking a tightrope between monstrosity and civility, between instinct and ethics. And in doing so, he forces us to confront one of the most unsettling questions about human nature. Can someone whose desires defy ethical codes ever truly be considered normal? Can the human mind accommodate darkness without being consumed by it? It isn't. Tonight, we are about to explore Dexter's world, a world where the morality is negotiable, instinct is undeniable, and normalcy is forever out of reach. We will examine the psychology of his dark passenger, the philosophical underpinnings of his actions, and the reason why, no matter how much he tries, Dexter Morgan could never truly walk among us as one of the normal, the ordinary, the moral. This is not just the story of a killer. It is a study of a mind divided, a man imprisoned by his own nature, and a chilling reminder of the shadows that exist within us all. Dexter's compulsion did not emerge suddenly in adulthood. It was forged in fire, tempered by trauma, and etched into his psyche long before he could even comprehend it. As a young child, Dexter witnessed the brutal murder of his mother, a violent act that left him orphaned, frightened, and alone. This moment was not just an external event. It became the defining wound of his life, a rupture that shaped his understanding of violence, justice, and morality. From that instant, the world became a place where cruelty could strike without warning, where innocence offered no protection, and where the ordinary moral rules that govern most people seemed irrelevant to his experience. Psychologists would argue that trauma rewires the mind, creating patterns of behavior designed to survive in a chaotic world. Existentialist thinkers, on the other hand, suggest that we are not solely shaped by biology, but by the choices, losses, and moral dilemmas that define our existence. Dexter's dark passenger is the embodiment of both perspectives. It is instinctive, primal, an urge to kill that pulses beneath the surface. But it is also highly structured, a coping mechanism refined over decades, a way to channel chaos into order, to impose control over a world that once left him powerless. Each kill, each calculated act of vigilante justice is not merely a compulsion. It is a ritual, a method of self-preservation, and a means of asserting moral order in a universe that previously offered none. Philosophically, Dexter represents a unique inversion of Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch. While Nietzsche envisioned a being who would rise above conventional morality to create values for the betterment of humanity, Dexter's ascent is inward, not outward. He does not seek to uplift society or redefine universal ethics. Instead, he constructs a personal code, the Code of Harry, to manage the darkness within himself. This code dictates who lives, who dies, and how the rituals of his killings must proceed. It is a meticulous framework that allows a monster to coexist, superficially, with a moral society. Yet, even within this structure, Dexter cannot achieve normality. Normality, in human terms, requires harmony between desire, conscience, and social expectation. Dexter's desires are fundamentally incompatible with that balance. His psyche, shaped by trauma and instinct, operates on a parallel plane, one that does not bend to the conventions of love, friendship, or family in the conventional sense. He can simulate these things, mimic them with perfection, but they remain performances. His dark passenger ensures that he is forever alienated, forever distinct, and forever unable to fully inhabit the ordinary moral universe. He cannot simply exist as a man. He exists as a man governed by a shadow, a compulsion, and a code that only he can understand. And this is why Dexter could never be normal. Not because he lacks morality, not because he delights in violence for its own sake, but because his very nature is an unbridgeable chasm between instinct and societal expectation. From the moment of his first traumatic encounter with death and cruelty, Dexter's life was marked by a truth that most humans are spared from realizing. Some darkness cannot be tamed, some urges cannot be suppressed, and some individuals are destined to walk in the liminal space between humanity and monstrosity. Throughout the series, Dexter Morgan navigates a world of moral ambiguity using a framework known simply as the Code of Harry, a set of rules instilled in him by his adoptive father, designed to channel his dark passenger toward a form of justice that society itself cannot always enforce. Kill only those who have escaped the law. Do not harm innocents. Leave no trace. At first glance, it may seem like a simple list of rules, but beneath its apparent clarity lies a profound philosophical experiment. A monster attempting to live within the constraints of society while remaining true to his nature. The Code of Harry is not merely a guideline. It is a lifeline, a rigid scaffolding that allows Dexter to coexist with the world without completely succumbing to chaos. Each rule is a boundary, a line drawn between the darkness he cannot suppress and the ethical order he must navigate. Philosophically, this is a fascinating inversion of classical moral thought. Immanuel Kant argued that morality arises from universal duties, imperatives that all rational beings must follow. Dexter's morality, however, mirrors this rigor but in reverse. He creates his own imperatives, his own universal rules, not for the benefit of humanity, but to contain the darkness within himself. In other words, his ethical system is meticulously designed to protect the innocent from the very compulsion that drives him, while simultaneously allowing him to act on desires that no ordinary moral framework would permit. This paradox lies at the heart of why Dexter could never be normal. Normality requires harmony, an alignment between desire, conscience, and social expectation. For most people, moral rules are integrated into the psyche, guiding impulses toward constructive or socially acceptable ends. Dexter, however, cannot reconcile his intrinsic desires with societal law. The Code of Harry is a compromise, a structure that channels violence into a form of ritualized justice, but never transforms it into peace. Every kill, every calculated act, is a reminder that Dexter operates under a dual system. Externally, he mimics the ordinary man, blending into the rhythms of daily life. Internally, he obeys a code that legitimizes acts of murder that would horrify the average conscience. In this sense, Dexter embodies a philosophical tension between order and chaos, between instinct and reason. His dark passenger is never silent, never satisfied. The code is not a cure. It is a containment strategy, a way to manage his compulsions, to channel them, to prevent them from spilling into indiscriminate violence. The precision, the ritual, the obsessive attention to detail in every act is a reflection of this inner negotiation. Dexter's morality is therefore both rigorous and terrifying. Rigorous because it is meticulously structured, terrifying because it is entirely self-defined and entirely outside the scope of normal human ethics. Ultimately, the Code of Harry reveals the uncomfortable truth at the center of Dexter Morgan's existence. Some darkness cannot be erased, some compulsions cannot be tamed, and some individuals can only coexist with society through constant vigilance, self-imposed rules, and careful, controlled chaos. Dexter is not free, not truly moral, and certainly not normal. He is a man bound by a personal law, walking a razor's edge between justice and monstrosity, a living paradox that forces us to question the very nature of ethics itself. Dexter Morgan's existence is a study in duality, a constant negotiation between the person he shows to the world and the predator that lurks beneath the surface. To his friends and colleagues, he is dependable, meticulous, even charming, the brother who cares, the coworker who never falters, the partner who seems attentive and loving. He is, in every outward measure, someone we might call normal. Yet, beneath this carefully constructed facade resides a force so primal, so unyielding, that it threatens to consume him entirely. It is the dark passenger, the embodiment of the part of himself that cannot and will not conform to ordinary morality. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow self, those aspects of our psyche that we suppress, deny, or fail to integrate. The shadow is universal, but most people manage it internally, keeping it hidden from the world, and often from themselves. Dexter, however, externalizes his shadow, gives it a literal form, and engages with it directly. He negotiates with it, structures it, channels it, but he can never fully reconcile with it. In doing so, he becomes a living experiment in the limits of human psychological integration. Dexter does not merely contain darkness, he coexists with it in a delicate balance, constantly aware that a single misstep could destroy the mask he presents to society. This duality comes at an immense cost. True intimacy, genuine connection, and unconditional love, these are experiences that Dexter cannot fully partake in. While he can mimic empathy, simulate affection, and even deceive himself temporarily into thinking he is capable of ordinary relationships, the underlying compulsion always intrudes. It isolates him from the very human experiences that define normal life. Every smile, every gesture of affection is shadowed by the predator within, the constant awareness of the impulses he cannot escape. Philosophically, Dexter's duality is a statement on human nature itself. It suggests that some forces within us are simply too powerful to integrate into conventional life, too uncontrollable to reconcile with societal expectations. Most of us live with small shadows moments of anger, jealousy, or fear, but Dexter's shadow is immense, dominating, and insistent. It shapes his choices, dictates his ethics, and determines the contours of his existence. Dexter Morgan's life, therefore, is a paradox. Outwardly human, socially competent, morally precise in his own framework, inwardly governed by an untamable instinct, an unyielding compulsion that keeps him forever apart from the ordinary world. His duality is not merely a personal quirk or narrative device, it is a philosophical reflection on the fragile boundary between civility and chaos, between morality and instinct, and between the self we show to the world and the self we cannot escape. In observing Dexter, we confront a chilling truth. Sometimes the darkness within is too vast, too uncontrollable, and too essential to our being to ever coexist peacefully with the life most of us take for granted. Consider what normalcy truly demands from a human being: empathy that is instinctive and spontaneous, moral restraint that guides action even when desire tempts otherwise, and the ability to suppress destructive impulses in favor of coexistence within society. Normality requires alignment between our inner drives and outward behaviors, a harmony between instinct, conscience, and the ethical expectations that govern our interactions with others. For most people, this balance is unconscious, seamless, and often taken for granted. But for Dexter Morgan, it is not merely elusive, it is an impossibility. Dexter is driven by a force beyond choice, a primal compulsion he refers to as his dark passenger. It is not a momentary lapse in judgment or a passing desire. It is an intrinsic aspect of his very being, a relentless force that shapes every thought and action. While he can simulate empathy, perform gestures of love, and navigate the routines of ordinary life with chilling precision, these are all acts performances designed to blend into a society he cannot truly inhabit. Authenticity, the alignment of inner reality with outward expression, is a state forever denied to him. Every smile he gives, every tender word he speaks, is shadowed by the predator within, the compulsion that waits patiently for its next expression. One says, this perpetual dissonance, the tension between the man the world sees and the force that drives him, defines Dexter's existence. It is what makes him endlessly fascinating to audiences, yet profoundly tragic. He moves among ordinary lives like a ghost behind a mask, participating in human connections while remaining fundamentally separate. Normality is not attainable for him. It is something observed from afar, shimmering on the other side of an invisible barrier. He can glimpse warmth, intimacy, and moral harmony, but they are forever inaccessible. His life is a study in alienation, a vivid reminder that some forces within the human psyche are too powerful, too insistent, to be fully integrated into the moral and social fabric of the ordinary world. Even the relationships Dexter forms are mediated through this shadow. Love, friendship, loyalty, they exist on his terms, circumscribed by the rules of his self-imposed code and constrained by the compulsion that defines him. He cannot allow intimacy to exist outside the framework of control, and thus his connections are inherently limited, never fully authentic, always guarded. The dark passenger ensures that he is fundamentally alien, an outsider to the human experience, forever separated from the moral and social rhythms that govern most lives. And yet, this very alienation is what renders Dexter eternally compelling. He is more than a character. He is a lens through which we confront the darkness that resides, unacknowledged, within each of us. He embodies the tension between instinct and morality, chaos and order, desire and societal expectation. In observing Dexter, we confront uncomfortable truths that within every human mind lie impulses too powerful to fully control, forces too primal to fully reconcile with conventional ethics, and aspects of ourselves that, if left unchecked, could turn us into the very monsters we fear. Dexter Morgan is a reflection of our shadows, an unsettling mirror reminding us that normality is not a guarantee, but a fragile, hard-won balance that some can never achieve. His existence challenges us to ask, can humanity ever fully contain the darkness within? Or is it, for some, an essential and unescapable truth? Dexter Morgan challenges one of the most comforting illusions we tell ourselves about human nature, that it can be tamed, that morality is universal, and that trauma can always be reconciled. He is living proof that the human mind is far more complex, far more fractured, and far more dangerous than we often admit. Dexter is a philosophical experiment, a paradox made flesh, a man whose existence probes the boundaries of ethics, psychology, and the human condition itself. He is a study in contrasts, a meticulous analyst and a cold-blooded killer, a devoted brother and a solitary predator, a man who adheres to a moral code that is both absolute and terrifyingly personal. In the world of Dexter Morgan, morality is not universal. It is negotiated, constructed, and meticulously maintained. His code of Harry functions as a bridge, a fragile structure that allows a monster to live among humans while containing the chaos that threatens to spill outward. But even within this structure, he is perpetually alienated. He cannot be fully human, fully integrated into the rhythms of ordinary life, nor can he achieve the kind of intimacy and connection that define most human relationships. Normalcy is not something he rejects, it is something he cannot attain. His compulsion, his dark passenger, is not a choice. It is an inseparable part of his nature, a force as intrinsic to him as blood itself. Yet it is precisely this terrifying perfection, this disciplined mastery of darkness, that makes Dexter endlessly compelling. He is a mirror, reflecting not only the extremes of human behavior, but also the shadow that resides within all of us. Every human possesses impulses, desires, and compulsions they cannot fully control. Most suppress them, hide them, or rationalize them away. Dexter embodies them, gives them form, and negotiates with them, directly forcing us, as viewers, to confront an uncomfortable truth. The line between order and chaos, between justice and vengeance, between normalcy and monstrosity, is far thinner than we like to believe. Dexter Morgan's legacy is not that of a hero or villain, but of a cautionary and illuminating example of the human psyche. He reminds us that trauma shapes us in ways we cannot undo, that instinct can overpower reason, and that moral codes are often insufficient to fully contain the darkness within. His life is a meditation on control, choice, and inevitability, illustrating that some shadows are permanent, some compulsions relentless, and some truths too profound to ignore. In the end, Dexter could never be normal, not because he consciously chose darkness, but because his very nature defies the ordinary, the expected, and the socially acceptable. And perhaps, in witnessing his journey, we glimpse our own shadows, our own dark passengers, waiting quietly within us, patient, persistent, and inevitable. Dexter teaches us that darkness is not always external, that morality is not always universal, and that within each of us lies a potential for both order and chaos, waiting for the circumstances that will reveal it. His story lingers long after the credits roll, a chilling, fascinating, and profoundly human exploration of the limits of control, the inevitability of compulsion, and the fragile boundaries that separate who we are from who we might become.